Okay, guys, so yesterday we spoke about, what did we talk about yesterday? I already forgot. Why, it just literally slipped my mind. I think we spoke, I don't even know what we spoke about yesterday. Anyway, today, what was just, I really just had the biggest brain fart. Anyway, today, oh yeah, we talk about the John, uh, Fred Rizzoli, and Shannon O'Leary suing Bill Hinman, suing Jay Clayton and others out of Arizona. That's what we spoke about yesterday. Starting next week, guys, we're going to be breaking down cryptos like DAG, which is Constellation. We're going to break down Hedera Hashgraph some more and some of the new things going on there. And we're going to jump into some other cryptos throughout the week just to see and start to get that part going, start educating you guys, because what I'm hearing is some people want to get down for that. So let's get into that. If you guys don't know, my name is Christian Israel. We do this every single morning, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This is the daily topics section. Today's daily topics, guys, we'll get there, but we're going to discuss private pensions and the single greatest real estate investment vehicle around. It's a thread and about fear. So we'll go into that. But quick news, NFT investors owe billions in taxes and IRS sets sights on evaders. And I have been having multiple discussions with people about the IRS recently and taxes. And we have been in a place with crypto for the last 4 years where taxes don't matter. I'm going to tell you that. Crypto taxes for the last, since I got into it, I really haven't paid. Last year was the first time, but I really haven't had to pay. I haven't had to. No one's reported it. No one's been there. I've been able to move all the way around my personal holdings and not get it. Last year, that stopped because Coinbase and others began to send their information to the IRS. No different with the NFT investors. People think right now that, the pancakes and the Uniswaps and all these things aren't sending your info. They track your blockchain, or they're tracking your address, and they're sending it off, period. And how do I know this? Because the U.S. is consistently able to, multiple times, get into people's private wallets or break into exchanges where they have people's money, or North Korea is the one who hacked Axis for $600 million. Things are happening. The government is coming after the money, and you can't avoid it. And so I tell you right now, guys, if you are trying to avoid taxes, do not do it, because I am seeing, from what I am seeing across the board, people are going to go to prison. They're going to put the normal person in prison for the taxes, because some of the people that are making gains in the crypto market, you used to make $50,000 a year, and now you're going to make $300,000-$400,000 in just one trade in a year. And that's, 15-20% tax. And maybe you weren't in that tax bracket before. And this is important. Maybe you weren't in that tax bracket making, $20 an hour. You weren't high enough, so you only paid, smallest tax bracket. But once you make that money in crypto, it is considered property. They're trying to make it property. So they're going to tax you at a full taxable rate if it's property, like you sold your house. So NFT investors, crypto investors, every swap, that is going to cost you. And I am here to warn you now. Just like all the PPP loan people who are getting popped off right now, no different where this is going to come. So don't listen to somebody on the internet who tells you can get away with it. Okay? Don't listen to Michael Saylor who tells you to hide your Bitcoin from the government. He tells you to never sell it. Okay? Do what's best for your pockets. Do not go to prison. Do not go to prison. And we're going to talk about that today, because remember, most, like Al Capone, you know why he went to prison? Not for the multiple murders he did, for tax evasion. Tax evasion is how they get people, because follow the money and the blockchain. Every single blockchain, email, all that, everything is tracked. Every single thing is tracked. So be very, very careful out there. So let's go into private prisons, and I'm going to play this for you. I just want you to hear what's happening right now, because Dr. Fauci decided to make this nice little decision. And I'm going to go here. Dr. Fauci tried to make this nice little decision here, and just wants to tell people you need to get used to it. So just listen.
How concerning is the outbreak in China? We see the lockdown in Shanghai, and the State Department now ordering families out, all non-essential workers out of Shanghai.
Well, China has a number of problems, two of which are that their complete lockdown, which was their approach, a strictest lockdown that you'd never be able to implement in the United States, although that prevents the spread of infection. And remember, early on, they were saying, and I think accurately, that they were doing better than almost anybody else. But lockdown has its consequences. You use lockdowns to get people vaccinated so that when you open up, you won't have a surge of infections because you're dealing with an immunologically naive population to the virus because they've not really been exposed because of the lockdown. The problem is that the vaccines that they've been using are not nearly as effective as the vaccines that are used in the United States, the UK, EU, and other places.
Okay, so I'm not gonna. My one question is one, their vaccine versus our vaccine. So if our vaccines, right, you guys already know, I'm not gonna go into this too deep, but we know you can still get C19. You can still give C19. In fact, all it's supposed to do is lessen your symptoms, but it doesn't stop you from anything. He says here, people are using lockdowns to get people vaccinated, force into vaccination. And that's what he's talking about China. He seems so calm. He's like, yeah, that's all they're doing. This is really what's going on in China. That guy just had his hands up. Now I'm not gonna keep letting you hear that, but I want you to see it while I'm speaking. And that is because fear. Do you see it? They want you to have fear. They want you to be slaves to fear. This is how the governments want you to be right now. I'm putting my headphones down. That's the last time I had to put them on. Fear. And that's why you see the title here. And I'm going to bring that in. You see that little in the bottom right here? See that right there? I don't think you can. That right there on the screen? That is chains. Those are chains. They want you to be in fear. That is what your government, not yours, but the United States and other governments around the world, and specifically China, this is what they do. They're forcing you into quarantine. And this is nothing. You can Google it. Killing the people's animals because you can't walk. They're locked in, and then they're just going to take you. And what happens later is crazy in this video is that they take the men, but then they push the women back out. It's crazy. I don't know if we already saw it, but I see them take a woman and push her back out of here, and that might be coming up here soon. It's so much that she's trying to get in there, they won't take them. They're literally just taking the men. The men. What does that tell you? We know the devil wants to break apart families, destroy families, and fear. And how do you destroy families? You make men feminine. You destroy the family and the idea of a father. And if that doesn't work, you just take the men and put them in prisons. Over and over and over again, you put them in prisons. Now, I want to talk about that, and I'm going to mute this real quick. Give me 1 second. You know, it doesn't matter how often, and it's Friday, by the way, so it's Good Friday, and no, everyone's asleep, except the cat. I don't know how many times I can hide the cat, but somehow someone gets up, releases the cat, and it comes up and bothers me every podcast. So I apologize for that. All right. So where was I going with this? They want to put you in prison. They want to put men in prison. And today's topic is we're going to get into new creations. It's all going to flow over. But I saw this, and it blew my mind. That this guy, Dallas Liam, states this, and, we know this, and we've studied this. about private prisons in America. And here's what he said. I just want to read it to you, and then we're going to go into kind of where this lines up in the scriptures. Because today's Good Friday, and I'm going to move this in. And we're going to discuss prison. We're going to discuss slaves to fear. But here, Dallas says, I've owned and operated private prisons for over 2 decades. Private prisons are the single greatest real estate investment vehicle around. Here's what I've learned. Owning a private prison gives an investor a reoccurring and predictable stream of high margin revenue. The government contracts are long in nature and very lucrative. I have managed to make over $35,000 per prisoner annually. Do you hear that? He's making $35,000 per person who is locked up in his prison. He is making $35,000 per person locked up in his prison. Not how much it costs to house that prisoner. He is making $35,000 annually. The devil wants you to be in fear, enslaved, and break up families. So the Private Prison Act, here, not act, but actions here in America, and I know them well, are trash. I'm just going to say it. Here we go. Let's go through it. Because people say, oh no, it's not, the system's not corrupt. Well, let's just see what the rich people say. I purchased the Eagle Nets facility in 2008. The total cost was $30 million with 25% down. $7.5 million is what he had to put down. So he's already wealthy. The facility has 1,200 beds, implying a cost per bed of only $25,000, but in a new prison in excess of $150,000 per bed. I entered into a perpetual contract with the United States Marshal Services. So the United States Marshal Services is paying him $20 million a year with 5% escalators each year. In the first year, he generated $5 million in free cash flow and 67% cash on return. So hey, U.S. Marshals, keep locking up people here, and we'll do a transfer of money. We'll pay you, and so forth and so on. Well, wow, locking people up and enslaving people. Slaves. Prisoners are slaves. They're slaves. They work for $2 an hour for stuff you spend $300 on. Prisoners are slaves, period. Well, there's a mind slate and a physical. Prisoners are physical slaves. It all depends on your mind if you're a mental slave inside a prison. But prison owners get paid per person. Per person. The more people, the more money, right? Here we go. $100 per day net or positive in revenue. Sometimes you get $25 variable, $35 fixed cost, $40 per person in straight margin. But per person in revenues. To increase his cash flow, he says he spent a significant amount of money on lobbying efforts to win a judge who was hard on crime. This paid off by the end of year 2. To pay me back, the judge sent most young men higher margin than older men to my facility. So and now we've discussed this. We've seen judges be arrested in Pennsylvania specifically for putting black young men in prison for like weed, for instance, for 5-10 years. Hard things, and sending them to private prisons. Why? Because that judge was being paid. That judge was being paid off by somebody like this. And it could be the same person. I do not know. But he just admitted to paying a judge, basically. He says by year 4, he was making $15 million at 95% occupancy. To maximize his investment, I started to market the facility to outside investors. Halfway through year 4, we sold the facility to private equity for 10x cash, which is $150 million. In 4 years, he turned the $7.5 million that he had to put down into $150 million. And he took that money and reinvested it into what? Other prisons across the South. Other prisons across the South. That's insane. That upsets me. Okay. So, it says here, let's see, private credit. So today I manage a portfolio over $1.5 billion in real estate for prisons. $1.5 billion. It says private prisons are one of the most overlooked and undervalued real estate vehicles out there. With the little sweat equity in American entrepreneurship, you can become extremely wealthy through this passive investment. And I'm not going to tell you, he says, shoot me, blah, 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 blah. What I'm going to do here is I would love to interview him on here. So I'm going to send this guy a message later, and I'm going to see if I can get him to come on this channel and discuss this versus morals, because obviously, just like we see, humans are equity. Humans are money. Men, young men, he said it, young men are there. Now, let's talk about private prison. I'm going to move on just real quick. So I just type in private prisons investing. I just wanted to see. And a couple things here came up. Okay. Where was it at? Here we go. Do private that's not it. Where was it at? I thought I was looking for something because something came up. And I already opened it, didn't I? Did I already open it? Let's see. Business to business. Oh man. Okay, so what I had here, let me do this. Watch this. I'm just gonna have to do this. I'm gonna just have to do BlackRock. All right. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. This is an article. At the same time, BlackRock is the largest investor in U.S. private prisons firm CoreCivic with 15.38% stake. So BlackRock, which we've discussed, who is the fourth entity of the government, the fourth branch of the government, owns 15.3% of all prisons, private prisons. They're buying the stocks. They own the prisons. The United States is set up for private pensions to put not just black men, which is the majority of prisons, young black men, but low socioeconomic men in general, whether you be Latino or Hispanic. It depends on what side you roll on and how you want to describe that. It's like white and Caucasian, black or African American or Asian American or whatever you may be. The point is, the less money you have, if you're in the system, the more likely you are to go to prison, and the longer you are to go to prison. Right? So BlackRock and Vanguard are the biggest investors in private prisons. BlackRock and Vanguard are the biggest investors in private prisons. That just reminded me to tell you this real quick, and then I'm going to get out of here on this section. Vanguard just bought more Twitter stock than Elon. Who owns Vanguard? A lot of rich people around the world. The Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, the George Soroses, the Rockefellers. They own Vanguard. And now now that Elon was like, I'm going to buy Twitter and make it completely private and a completely free speech forum, look what happens. Vanguard buys it. They say, we don't want it. And we're going to find out why. Soon. We already know why. The same people that are buying the stock market right now are the same people putting all the men in prison. Now, it's not that people deserve to go to prison, don't get me wrong. But their goal is to give every man a number and make him a slave to the system and a slave to fear. Now, I'm someone who sees a cop and I could be perfectly fine walking down the street, driving, but instilled in me based on my personal journey is fear of prison and cops for finding something I may or may not have done in 30 years or 40 years or whatever it may be, that they'll just make something up and you'll be there. Because it is a money business. And in order for you to get out, you need to have money. That's why lawyers are so expensive. They want you to be a slave to the system, a slave to taxes, a slave to everybody. And who wants you to be a slave? The devil. The devil does. And then I'm going to give this and I'm going to close this out before we go into the next section. The spirit you receive does not make you slaves, so that you live in fear. Again, rather the spirit you received brought about your adoption to sonship. And by him we cry, Abba, Father. Our Father in heaven will release us from these fears and this slavery. The government is not your Abba. This is not someone you should depend on. And that's what I want to discuss in this Friday when we're looking for freedom. Freedom from slavery, freedom from fear, Sometimes you have to close your eyes to the world because this is what they're pitching to you. This is what they want you to be. They want you to pay your taxes. They want you to listen to them. And if you don't, they're going to lock you down and then put you in prison. That's where we are. So, based on that system, are private prisons the single greatest real estate investment vehicle around? Well, according to the stats outside of crypto, guys, sadly, that's where it is. What are your comments on this section? What do you know? Let me know below, because I know sometimes you get into some levels and people go, oh, you talked about crazy, and they don't want to hear it. But when it comes down to facts, I just showed them to you. So let me know below what you think. Comment, subscribe, do the social media thing, guys. I do believe that is the end of the daily topics. Let's move on to the next section. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share this video, subscribe to this channel, and do the thing that people do on social media. At Twitter, at TikTok, you know, New Creation Capital. Let us know, guys. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great day. Later, guys.